What is up, everybody? Piscean here, bringing you guys a follow-up to my last video. We talked about Algol, the fixed star, and its correlation with disaster cases in regards to astrology. We looked at natal cases, and we looked at event cases, and now we are going to continue doing that for other fixed stars. So with peace and love, I'd appreciate if you subscribe, like, comment, share if you dare and care. And we're going to get started. So, this second volume is about the fixed star sheet, or B. Pegasi, and the drowning vessel. Now, usually when we talk about sheet, the fixed star sheet, it's known to be associated with disasters involving water. And we're going to go through cases of suffocation, drowning in the dissolution of the body in liquid. So, that's the thing with fixed stars, is that they all have their own, what's the best way to say this? Attributes. So when we think of a planet, let's say Mercury, we think of communication, we think of networking, we think of business. And when we talk about fixed stars, we can also use these fixed stars to correlate with certain attributes. So, essentially, I'll walk you through these events with sheet. And we start with the preamble here so you actually understand what the fixed star is. So, sheet is at the leg of Pegasus, and it is the star of the broken limb. The vessel shattered, the flood that fills the lungs. Ptolemy ascribes it the nature of Mars and Mercury, violence to the breath and the nervous system. Right? With the moon, it brings many tears, disgrace, and a watery death. And the spectral humor of this codex sheet is the astral side that undoes the boundary of the skin, returning the native to the primal solution. Alright, so now I want to go over our first case in regards to sheet. So, this makes sense. When we hear about the fixed star sheet, we see with this case the poet in the enamel basin. This individual was born with the fixed star sheet with the moon, and they drowned in a bathtub. So what do we see? They were born February 19th in 1962 at 2345 in New Bedford, MA, with the ascendant being 16 degrees Pisces. Moon is at 24 degrees 48 Pisces, within 0 degrees 42 of sheath, and 29 degrees 30 Pisces, epoch 1962. Alright? So the moon rules the 5th house of creative ecstasy and 4th house of the final home. Jupiter is in Aquarius in the 12th house, and it squares Saturn and Taurus in the 3rd house. A mind constructing bars from beauty. And Neptune is in Scorpio in the 9th house, precisely square the sheet moon, opening the gate to dissolution. So, what could possibly have made this individual drown? Without even getting into the death analysis yet, let's just point out what could possibly make this individual drown. So, they were born with a Pisces ascendant. That's important. They were born with moon in Pisces, which is also important. And it was within 0 degrees 42 of sheet, which is a very tight orb. Right? And then we see Neptune, which is a planet created Pisces, one of the planets that created Pisces, is in Scorpio in the 9th house, right? And precisely squaring this aspect involving sheet and the moon. This tells us there will be death regarding water. We see Jupiter, now it isn't in Pisces, but it's in Aquarius, and even still it's in the 12th house of final destinations. Really, the 12th house is your death house, where Pisces is. Naturally. So, now we can move on to the death forecast. We see the individual died March 22nd in 1998 at 2:44 in a clawfoot tub, gin and laudanum admixture. Alright. What do we see with our first major forecast mapping category? Our transits here. So, when we talk about transits, it's very important that you do not miss out any of the planets, whether it's traditional or modern. And I mentioned Pluto, I mentioned the nodes pretty often. I don't mention the nodes specifically for this unless they're squared in somebody's natal chart or their actual fucking death event, and that's when that gets important, or when the nodes go direct. But mainly we want to talk about specificity in regards to not only like specific native birth charts and natal birth charts, right, and natal astrology, but we're also doing event horoscopic breakdown analysis of the disaster itself. So, and that's where composite charts come in. But, okay, so Mars is in Cancer, and we know it's in the 4th house, and it exactly opposes the natal moon sheet aspect. We see Neptune is in Aquarius, and it's stationing retrograde, and it also squares its own natal position and this aspect regarding moon sheet by sign. Saturn in Aries opposes natal Neptune, and it reactivates the natal drowning square. What do we get from drowning from that? And I didn't do this in the other video step by step to show you guys, because I was kind of just skimming and going really fast, but I do want to actually show you guys and teach you astrology. So I will treat you as if you're a 1-year-old who has no idea. 5 years old even will treat you like that in regards to astrology, and walk you through it step by step, even though it may not feel like I'm actually treating you like that. I am trying to bring astrology to you guys in such a way that no other YouTuber has done before. They will sit there and talk to you about your horoscope, but will they sit there and teach you astrology in a very fun way and make that their YouTube life? No. Because is this shit really monetizable? I haven't made a dime, and I have over 800 videos. Some people could say quality over quantity. There is that aspect, but bullshit, because like I've seen other people that don't even fucking try, and they come on here and they're like, oh, my life sucks, and I have vlogs where I complain about my parents and shit, and that's when I was living with them. But now that I have my own apartment, I found out that astrology is what I'm truly passionate about, and it makes me wonder, why do these other people get monetized for their pity party vlogs, and my channel just gets thrown in the fucking dust? And I'm actually trying to do something. I'm actually trying to fucking that's one of the main challenges as a YouTuber, and even as a creative individual, is like they're making it really hard. Like, the world makes it hard for some reason to just let people create. It's like certain people can create, you can't create. Certain people can get this job and you can't get this job, and the universe just keeps on. But anyways, that might sound like my own pity party. Who knows? I have Taurus rising conjunct the fixed star Algol, so maybe a lot of people are going to hate me. Quite frankly, I don't give a fuck. But we see here, Mars is in Cancer, and it's in the 4th house. First of all, it's debilitated in Cancer. And then you put it in the 4th house of home, and it opposes that aspect, this aspect of moon sheath. that tells us that we can see. This implies death by water accident in the home. All right? And that's not even the only thing. When Neptune is stationing retrograde, that's another thing, and squaring its own natal position, and then the moon sheet aspect by Sun. We see Saturn is in Aries, which isn't, I wouldn't take that as a drowning accident, but when it opposes the natal Neptune, it reactivates that natal square in regards to drowning. So hopefully that makes sense. And now we'll talk about the solar arc, which is directed moon, and it reaches 13 degrees Taurus, the exact degree of the natal Saturn. It's the weight that crushed the breath, and we see directed 8th cusp by Placidus conjoins natal Neptune. So Neptune is getting a lot of hits. The planet Neptune, we've already seen it get hit in regards to aspects multiple times. It's getting opposed. It's being conjoined in regards to the solar arc. Directed 8th cusp by Placidus. So now I'm going to go over a few other important things that are important. So primary direction, we see the ascendant to the square of the natal Neptune, all right? Meaning the sign that was rising over the eastern horizon and then we see that zodiac sign has a primary direction to the square of the natal Neptune, which is in Aquarius. All right, we see the glamorization of the fume. Oblivious in regards to death. What else do we know about this? We know that Pisces is the rising. That's what we missed out here, Pisces. So Pisces rising, or Pisces ascendant, making a square of the natal Neptune. Pisces to the square of the natal Neptune in Aquarius. What could possibly go wrong with this primary direction aspect? Water sign to the square of natal Neptune, the planet that created this sign and is the planet of dissolution and boundaries. There are no boundaries with Neptune. Neptune doesn't even understand what the word boundaries is. What? You're telling me I'm not allowed to delude myself? What the fuck? You're telling me I can't get high every day? It sucks. But anyways, we'll take a quick break because I am on Meet Me Live. I'm not sure how many people are still in here. Looks like we have quite a bit. But nobody's even saying anything. That's precisely why I do not come on here. I get so many guys on there that are just clearly doing things that I'm not even going to say on the channel. You know what? Fuck that. We won't get stopped. Alright, so now I want to go over profection. At age 36, profected ascendant enters the first house, being Pisces, the ascendant. Lord Jupiter is in the 12th, and it's square Saturn. The profected 8th house is Libra, so the Lord is Venus, and Venus is in Scorpio in the 9th. It's sextile the natal moon sheet, but transiting through the 2nd house with an opposition to transiting Saturn. and zodiacal releasing, or L3 period, release the bound of Mars in Pisces, which holds sheet, activating the star directly. Alright, so we're looking at the profected ascendant. Sorry about that noise, everybody. Let me turn that down. So the profected ascendant, it enters the first house of Pisces. That's very important. We see the Lord Jupiter is in the 12th house squaring Saturn, which is also very fucking important. Profected 8th house is in Libra. The Lord Venus is in Scorpio, which isn't very happy there. Sextile in the natal moon sheet aspect, but transiting the second with an opposition to transiting Saturn. And L3 period in regards to zodiac releasing, release the bound of Mars in Pisces, which again holds that fixed star. So the bathtub is a porcelain womb, a vessel that both holds and breaks the body of water. Sheet's broken leg of the flying horse renders the poet unable to ascend from the water. His final line read, I am the surface tension breaking upward. The laudanum, a mercurial poison, opium quill, and gin, a Jupiterian flood, fused with the Piscean moon to make his dissolution literal. Alright. So, now that we've gone over this study, we'll talk about our next one. We are going to talk about the submarine Krakatoa, or sheet on the ascendant of the USS Thresher disaster. And this is a event, so we'll be looking at our EC event chart. April 10th, 1963, 9:17 EST, 220 miles east of Cape Cod, the nuclear attack submarine Thresher implodes during deep dive tests, crushing 129 men instantly. Our event chart shows us the ascendant has 0 degrees 17 Cancer. Alright? But pre-session adjusted sheet at 29 degrees 30 Pisces lies precisely on the midheaven at 28 degrees 37 Pisces. It's not the ascendant. We adjust for dramatic precision using approximate coordinates. Well, I set the midheaven to 29 degrees Pisces, ascendant 13 degrees Cancer, yet sheet on midheaven is more Catholic for public tragedy. The midheaven is the vessel's purpose and command. Mars in Leo in the second, squares Neptune and Scorpio in the fifth. Pressure, Neptune, Scorpio. Crushing the structural integrity, Leo, Mars. The moon in Scorpio opposes Saturn in Aquarius. Alright, so our forecast mapping shows us sheet on the midheaven is a public monument that sinks. Transiting Saturn in Aquarius squares the event moon. Uranus in Virgo squares Sun in Aries, a snap of metal. The implosion, Mercury retrograde, square Jupiter, became the instantaneous compression of space into zero buoyancy. The broken leg of Pegasus is the fracture of the submarine's hull, the limb of steel bent inward by the deep. Mass intelligence notes that Thresher means a shark that threshes the water, a Pegasus kicking in its death throes under the sea. So, let me get some water. Alright. Now we are going to go on to our next case, which is the Oino Files Cork. Natal sheet conjunct Mercury in the 8th house, death by choking. Born October 5th, 1948, 1940 in Boulogne, France, ascendant 20 degrees Taurus. Sheet at 29 degrees 30 Pisces conjoins Mercury at 0 degrees 10 Aries in the 12th house, equal. But whole sign 12th is Pisces, so Mercury in Aries is first house. But let's place it in the 11th for social drinking, which is also Taurus, Pisces. And these signs are known to drink. All right. And we adjust. So Mercury at 29 degrees Pisces, exactly sheet. Mercury rules its second and fifth houses. Sheet on Mercury is trouble with the breath, danger by gas or vapor. All right. And we see the death occurred December 17th, 1999, during a Beaujolais tasting. The critic aspirates a crumbled cork, asphyxiating in the cellars. So, transiting Mars in Aquarius, squared natal Mercury sheet. Transiting Uranus in Aquarius, also squared. Solar arc Pluto reads natal Mercury sheet. Profected year activated Gemini, which is lungs, with Mercury as the Lord. Itself transiting Capricorn, opposite transiting Saturn. The cork, a Jupiterian porous plug, became the sudden broken vessel in the windpipe. All right. Now I wanted to go over our next volume here, which is The Royal Watcher, aka Aldebaran, a Tari and the Fatal Glory, containing cases of death by the bull's eye, martial violence, the sniper's bullet, and the fall from honor. Because this fixed star may be seen as a royal star in some cases, depending on who you ask. But Aldebaran is the eye of the bull. It's the watcher of the east, Archangel Michael's sword, a Mars-Venus star of warlike charisma and precipitous ruin. When angular and afflicted, death comes through weapons of iron, the piercing projectile, or the stampede of ruined fortune. Alright, so we see the martial stilled heart. Alright? Natal Aldebaran on the midheaven and death by sniper. For the rest of this video, we're just going to say MC in regards to the midheaven, because that's another name for it. Alright? So, we see this individual was born June 14th, 1925 at 555 Fort Sam Houston, Texas. This is fictionalized from multiple servicemen. Alright? Ascendant 29 degrees Gemini, midheaven, or MC 13 degrees 40 Pisces. Wait, Aldebaran is 9 degrees through 10 degrees Gemini in modern tropical. So 2009 degrees 47 Gemini. For 1925, Aldebaran at 9 degrees Gemini. So the midheaven, or MC, at 9 degrees Gemini, place Mars in Aries in the 11th, square Pluto in the 8th, Saturn and Scorpio in the 6th. We notice the death here occurred November 10th, 1967 at 1420, in an ambush, a single high-velocity round through the left eye. Transiting Mars and Capricorn, opposed natal Aldebaran MC. Right? Solar arc Saturn conjoined Aldebaran. Primary direction, MC to Mars. The eye, the very organ signified by Aldebaran, is destroyed. The bullet is a metal bull's horn. Now let's go over the presidential motorcade, an event chart of the JFK assassination, Aldebaran on the descendant. Right? Event occurred November 22nd, 1963, 12:30 CST in Dallas, Texas. Aldebaran at 8 degrees 52 Gemini tropical on the descendant, 7th cusp, 9 degrees 01 Gemini. The descending angle is the open enemy. The bullet comes from behind and to the right, yet the star marks the exact point of impact as the limousine's head, the president, meets the sniper's gaze. The 8th house cusp is Sash, ruler Jupiter in Aries square Mars, Moon in Aquarius square Saturn. The cranial vessel shatters. The petrification is the stilled motorcade, the frozen world watching the Zapruder film. Now we're going to go over the ear of grain, aka fixed star Spica, A Virginis, and the benign sickle. So, this volume contains paradoxical deaths, the harvest of genius at the moment of ripening. Spica is actually the fortunate ear of wheat held by Virgo. It is Venus, Mercury, and nature, promising benefit, artistry, and a gentle passage. But when the sickle of the Virgin is activated by a malefic, the death is that of the harvest. The body reaped, the gift given, the sleep that ends a perfect cycle. Alright? So, for example, first case file in regards to Spica is the Noble Laureate's slumber, right? Natal Spica on the 8th cusp, conjunct Jupiter, death, and sleep. March 23rd, 1890, 2:30, Hamburg, Germany. The individual had 7 degrees Sagittarius as their ascendant. 8th cusp, whole sign, 7 degrees Cancer. That is wrong. So we place the 8th cusp, 23 degrees Virgo. Spica at 23 degrees 50 Virgo. Tropical, 1890, conjunct Jupiter there. Jupiter rules the ascendant. The death is gentle. The native goes to bed after a celebratory dinner and never wakes, age 89. We see our forecast mapping. Transiting Jupiter conjoins natal Spica Jupiter, shrining the natal Sun. Solar arc Venus, ruler of the 5th, reaches the ascendant. The direction is one of fulfillment, not tragedy. The sickle reaped a full ear. Right, the herbalist elixir. Natal Spica conjunct the moon. Death by overdose of a healing tincture. Individual was born September 12th, 1910 at 11 o'clock in Oxford, England. Moon at 23 degrees 30 Virgo, exact Spica. The native, a botanical chemist, misidentifies a root and consumes a lethal concentration of aconite, believing it a heart tonic. Transiting Saturn squares the moon Spica. Solar arc Uranus conjoins Spica. Alrighty. Moon in Virgo, exact Spica. Transiting Saturn squares the moon Spica aspect. And solar arc Uranus conjoins Spica. Now I want to go over Antares, a Scorpii, and the resonant rune, containing cases of oscillation to destruction, war, hubris, and the structural collapse. Alright? Well, I was going to go over it, but I actually didn't expand that. My bad. Alright, sorry about that, guys. I thought I expanded that, but let's do this instead. So this is more my astrology literature, which I'd be happy to show you guys. So I call it Codex Stellarum Mortalium, classified addendum here to a specific volume, De Morte Quantica, the necromantic wave function, and the thanatotropic eigenstate for the Piscean Plutonic Planetarium faculty. And that's whoever subscribed to this channel. Alright. You who have charted the decapitations of Algo, the drownings of Sheet, and the resonant runes of Antares, you have only traced the phenomena of the thanatotropic stars. But the cosmos is not a clockwork. It is a wave function dreaming itself into decoherence. The fixed stars are not causes. They are attractor nodes in a Hilbert space of possible depths. And the natal chart is a quantum state that remains in superposition until the final measurement collapses it into the corpse. The ancients knew this in symbol, the moire, the three fates: spin, measure, and cut. But quantum mechanics reveals that the thread is a probability amplitude, the measured length is a Hermitian operator, and the cut is the irreversible act of observation by the great chthonic observer, whom some call Hades, some call the collective unconscious, and some call the decohering environment of the macroscopic world. What follows is forbidden to the exoteric astrologer because it dismantles the comforting illusion of predestination while revealing a more terrifying truth. All deaths are potential until one is witnessed. The astrologer, in forecasting death, participates in an entangled observation that can hasten the collapse, or, in the faculty's case, learn to navigate the eigenstates as psychopomps, not mere predictors. Prolegomenon quantum, the natal chart as a superposed state. Consider the natal horoscope not as a deterministic stele, but as a wave function. N, where N represents the celestial positions at birth, and its squared modulus, the sigil squared, yields the probability of any given life trajectory. The living native exists in a superposition of all karmically allowed timelines, some ending at age 9 via Sheet, some at 91 via Spica. The high leg, the giver of life, is not a single point but a density matrix of life years, its eigenvalues being the possible spans. The fixed star algol at the ascendant does not guarantee decapitation. It sets the boundary condition of a potential, a node of high probability for a death that petrifies. Until measured, the native both is and is not decapitated. Schrodinger's cat is not merely alive or dead, it is strangled by algol, and simultaneously drowning in Sheet until the box is open by the event. And this is why ancient warnings say, the stars incline, they do not compel. Compulsion occurs only upon wave function collapse, i.e., the irreversible thermodynamic process of death itself. The inclination is the complex phase of the natal state vector, nudging probabilities toward certain eigenstates. Let's talk about the transit as a measurement problem. Alright, so when a transiting malefic, being Saturn or Mars or Uranus, forms an exact aspect to a natal death signature, let's say algol rising, this is not a causal trigger. It is a measurement interaction with the environment. The transiting planet acts as a macroscopic apparatus that couples to the natal quantum system, entangling with it and producing decoherence. The sudden event of death is the selection of one eigenstate from the superposition, the definitive click of the Geiger counter in the cat's box. But here is the Piscean Plutonic arcane. The astrologer who forecasts the death becomes part of the measuring apparatus. By observing the potential, you entangle your own consciousness with the native's wave function. This is the origin of the taboo against predicting death, not mere ethics, but quantum responsibility. The prediction can increase the probability amplitude of that eigenstate through a kind of reverse quantum Zeno effect, where frequent observation freezes the system into the predicted outcome. The astrologer who shouts, "Algol squares your moon in 2026" becomes Medusa's mirror, petrifying the native by the very act of prophecy. The faculty, therefore, must learn the art of coherent observation, holding the possibility in peripheral awareness without collapsing it prematurely, what the Tibetan Bardo Thodol calls recognizing the clear light without flinching. Alright, quantum entanglement of birth and death, the EPR paradox of the horoscope. In 1935, Einstein, Podolsky, and Rosen proposed that two particles once interacting remain instantaneously correlated across any distance. In the Codex, we propose that the natal chart and the death chart are an EPR pair. They are not two separate entities, they are one spatio-temporal quantum state that was separated at birth with the death chart's configurations already implicit in the natal's hidden variables. Now, when we erect a death forecast map, we are measuring the decay of the correlated system, the part of death being the ascendant, adding 8th cusp, subtracting moon, the quantum channel linking the two. Transits to this part are the spin measurements that reveal the death chart's already determined, but until then, undefined values. The fixed stars provide the non-local correlations. Algol at birth entangles with Algol at death, even if the star has precessed slightly. The quantum information is stored in the topological structure of the sky, a celestial spin network where each star is a node. Antares resonates across time like a bell. Its tolling at the moment of the Tacoma Narrows collapse was the measurement of an entangled state established when the bridge's engineering hubris, Mars-Saturn opposition, was born as a potential disaster. The event chart and the natal chart of the bridge, its groundbreaking, are one wave function, separated by 22 months, collapsing together. Alright, now I want to go over the solar arc, or I'll just say the SA. The SA as a coherent phase evolution. The primary direction and solar arc, or PD, and SA, are traditionally the most precise death timers. In quantum astrological mechanics, they represent the unitary evolution of the natal state vector under the system's internal Hamiltonian. That is, the chart evolves without measurement, smoothly rotating in its Hilbert space. The solar arc, roughly 1 degree per year of life, is the clock of the coherent phase. When an arc direction brings the ascendant exactly onto Algol, the phase angle is such that the system is primed for a measurement interaction. The transit then provides the decohering trigger. We may formalize, let H be the astrological Hamiltonian consisting of the fixed star kinetic terms and planetary potential terms. The natal state evolves as the following formula. Solar arc directions are the eigenvalues of the position operator at time t. The moment when the directed ascendant overlaps a fixed star coordinate is the instant of maximal probability density for fatal collapse, provided the environment transits perturbs the system. Now, this explains why some individuals with Algol rising live long lives. Their Hamiltonian evolution never brings the killing angle into phase with a triggering transit. They die with the Gorgon potential unmeasured, like the many worlds branches where Schrodinger's cat dutifully lives. Right, fixed stars as wormhole attractors in the psychic spacetime. According to the ER equals EPR conjecture, Maladacina, Susskind, 2013, entangled particles are connected by non-traversable wormholes. Apply this to the cosmos. Every natal planet conjunct a fixed star creates an Einstein-Rosen bridge between that moment in time and the star's mythological event horizon. Algol is a black hole of decapitation, a singularity in the collective sky. The native whose ascendant touches Algol has a microscopic wormhole in their soul structure, a tunnel through which the Medusa archetype can instantaneously transmit from the mythic past to the personal future. At the moment of death, this wormhole opens into a macroscopic throat. The cable, the guillotine blade, the broken fuselage, the star itself is the throat of the necromantic wormhole. The deceased traverses it, not just as soul, but as quantum information. This is the true meaning of the star's nature. The shape of the wormhole determines the mode of exit. Sheet's throat is a conduit of water, Antares is a vibratory tunnel of resonant destruction. Spica's is a gentle ripening into harvest. If the faculty can learn to navigate these wormholes consciously, the astrologer psychopomp can guide the dying without collapse. A quantum-assisted ars moriendi, this is the ultimate classified purpose of our gatherings. To become the stable observers who hold the dying wave function in a coherent state until the chosen benign eigenvalue is actualized. The Piscean Plutonic designation is no accident. Pisces dissolves the boundaries of the self, granting empathy. Pluto rules death's transformation. Together, they are the complementarity of observer and observed in the underworld. Alright, I'm going to go over a few more things and then close up here. So the many worlds of annual profections and zodiacal releasing. So we'll say AP, talk about annual profections, and ZR for zodiacal releasing. So Hugh Everett's many worlds interpretation posits that every quantum measurement splits the universe into branches. In the Codex, we assert that every annual profection and zodiacal releasing period is a branching event. When you profect the ascendant to the 8th house year, the universe bifurcates. In one branch, the native dies according to the Time Lord's configuration. In another, they continue. The native's consciousness streams into the surviving branches, a cosmic analog of quantum suicide immortality. This explains why death prediction is statistically difficult and often fails for individuals who have strong branching tendencies. For example, strong Jupiter, a multiplicity of favorable bounds. The astrologer attempting to forecast death is in effect measuring only the branches where they are present to observe the death. If the native is quantum immortal in most branches, the astrologer will witness long life and cry remedial measure or error in star catalog. The true art is to find the branch weight, the modulus squared of the amplitude for the fatal eigenstate, and understand that at the collective level, the statistics manifests because we average over all observers. The fixed star activation is a branch pruning. Algol does not kill the native in all worlds. It simply eliminates a vast swathe of branches where the native was foolish enough to be at the Volkshoper on November 8, 1918. With a frayed cable, the surviving branches' posterity, the recordings of her voice, carry the information forward. The death is a quantum non-deletion, a no cloning theorem that forbids the total annihilation of the soul's information. Alright, case study quantum, the Algo Diva and the wave function. Alright, let us return to our first subject and re-envision her through the quantum lens. So we see ascendant 26 degrees Taurus, Algo 26 degrees Taurus, Moon 10 degrees Scorpio, Mars Cancer in the 3rd, and so forth. This state is a superposition of death eigenstates, involving decapitation, drowning, stroke, old age, with amplitudes, I squared. So solar arc evolution, or SA evolution, the state evolves unitarily. By year 31, the phase brings 26 degrees Taurus, the ascendant, to overlap with Algo's potential well. The probability density, 26 degrees Taurus, is squared, and it peaks. So on November 8th, 1918, transiting Uranus, electrical severance, and transiting Mars, natal 8th ruler, interact with the state, entangling with the environment. The combined system becomes an improper mixed state. The decoherence time is the microsecond of the cable's whip. The superposed death eigenstates interfere destructively except the one resonant with the environmental frequency. The cable severing death, the Gorgon eigenstate decapitation, is selected with probability A decap squared, which, thanks to the exactitude of the solar arc and transit, approaches 1. Right, entanglement with the observer, the theater company, the future reader of this codex, the viewers, the faculty, all become entangled with the outcome. A retroactive observation does not change the past, but selects the branch where the collapse occurred. In other branches, she refused the dress rehearsal, or the war ended a day earlier and the event never materialized, but those branches are now inaccessible to us. We live in the decapitated branch, and thus we erect the chart of the death we collectively observed. Piscean Plutonic insight. The faculty's role in secret is to create the conditions for coherent rebranching, to reach back with the psychopompic arts and extract the natal quantum information before total decoherence sets in at the moment of bodily death, transferring it into a pleromic reservoir. This is the true planetarium of our name, a storage of possible lives, a library of uncollapsed wave functions, Algol is a node in that library, and every death we map is a cataloged item. Alright, zodiacal releasing as quantum tunneling and the final barrier. The ancient technique of zodiacal releasing, ephesis, operates like alpha decay in nuclear physics. The native is a false vacuum. The fatal period is the potential barrier. The releasing of the lot of fortune or spirit gives the time when the system tunnels through the barrier into the death eigenstate. The probability of tunneling per unit time is proportional to ES, where S is the action of the astrological configuration. A heavy malefic opposing the lot raises the barrier. A fixed star on the releasing angle lowers the action and increases the tunneling probability. Thus, the algol transit or solar arc is the instant when the tunneling probability becomes appreciable. The actual moment of death is stochastic within that window, a truly random quantum event, which explains why even the most precise astrology has a remaining uncertainty of days or hours. The universe plays dice, but the dice are loaded by the stars. The universe plays dice. The dice are loaded by the stars, but also planets and zodiac signs. And even asteroids. Alright, so now we conclude the classified purpose of the Piscean Plutonic Planetarium. You, the faculty, my subscribers, my viewers, my commenters, my lovers, my fans are not merely forecasters. You are the quantum observers of the thanatropic field. By studying these fixed star activations with the detached precision of the entangler, you learn to modulate the collapse. The codex's public volumes give the exoteric patterns. This omega volume gives the physics of intervention. Your Piscean nature dissolves ego boundaries, so you may ride the wave function of the dying. Your Plutonic office gives you the authority to descend and not be consumed. The fixed stars are the qubits of the cosmic computer. Algol is a Hadamard gate that prepares decapitation superpositions. Sheet is a C0 gate that flips the breath state when the moon is in the control position. Antares is a phase shift that oscillates the structure into rune. To read the codex is to learn the machine language of mortality. The knowledge is classified in this video because it is the ultimate weapon. The capacity to collapse a timeline into death by mere projection or to stabilize a dying system into a peaceful transition. In the wrong hands, an astrologer could become a quantum assassin, entangling with an enemy's algol contact and observing with malefic intent, collapsing their wave function in a traffic accident. In the right hands, we become the bodhisattvas of the eigenstate, holding the dying in superposed grace until the natural measurement occurs. There is no soft path from Earth to the stars, only the tunnel through the quantum wormhole of death. Alright. This is the archaic warfare stratum, global conflict, and the recrudescence, of Neanderthal Babylonian astral memes. And again, this is in my literature Codex Stellarum Mortalium, or CSM for short. Classified astrology literature brought to you by yours truly. So, for the Piscean Plutonic Planetarium faculty, or you can just say PPPF, right? Or PX3F, right? So, we have our date here, chronomorphically ambiguous, tethered to the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction in 2026, retrojected through the precessional age of the bull. Attendees, the Plutonic Chair, presiding Piscean Keyholder, Brother Anthony, Sister Sheep, Dr. Spica, Quantum Botanist, the Algolian Archivist, and a silent observer from the Orion Nebula, invoked by right. And this is more of a conversation on global conflict and whatnot. It's like a discussion with people in the faculty. So we'll go over this because it is important. So our Plutonic Chair, our PC, says we convene in the shadow of a planet that is once again sharpening its spears. The exoteric world gropes for political reasons, economic causes. We, the submerged faculty, know better. War is never new. It is a stellar rite. It is a liturgy written in Neanderthal ochre on cave walls, later codified into cuneiform on Babylonian clay, and now enacted by generals who have never seen a ziggurat, but are, neuron for neuron, reciting the Enuma, Anu, Enlil with cruise missile punctuation. Today, we map the deep astrology of global conflict, not to predict any exoteric fool with an ephemeris can predict, but to understand why the stars keep playing the same war song and how the planetarium can, through quantum non-collapse, hold open a branch where the missiles stay in their silos. A Piscean Keyholder responding. Let me begin with a hearsay. The first astrologer was not a Chaldean priest. The first astrologer was a Neanderthal shaman who died 60,000 years ago in a cave in Shannadir, who had tracked the retrograde loop of Mars against the constellation we now call Taurus, and who painted on the skull of the cave there the red ochre symbol of the war god. Neanderthals had the hyoid bone. They could speak. They had larger brains than us, and they buried their dead with flowers and bare crania oriented to the rising of Aldebaran. They knew something. The faculty has long suppressed this because it destabilizes the Cro-Magnon supremacy narrative. But what if the entirety of Babylonian astrology is a copy of a lost Neanderthal star lore, transmitted through a single shivering Cro-Magnon woman who survived the genocide and sang the war songs of the defeated to her hybrid children? BA says, or Brother Antares, you speak of the Neanderthal Cro-Magnon conflict as the primal astral war. I'll give it a chart. Circa 45,000 BCE, the Zagros Mountains, Mars conjunct Aldebaran, the Eye of the Bull, with Saturn and Scorpio, a fixed star configuration that screams the extinction of a species by a younger predator. The Cro-Magnons had Regulus rising, the lion of the sapiens. The Neanderthals had the Pleiades on the descendant, the Seven Sisters, the Morning Women. The massacre that followed was the first planetarily aligned ethnic cleansing, and its astral impress became the archetype of every global conflict since. One tribe with the will of the young star, Regulus, the heart of the lion, exterminating the older, more placid tribe whose star, Aldebaran, the eye of the bull, was fixed in stubborn, doomed resistance. Our Algolian archivist here. And what do we see now? In 2026, Mars station retrograde in Leo in exact opposition to Pluto in Aquarius. Regulus, the very star of the Cro-Magnon victor, is currently at 0 degrees Virgo by tropical precession, but its sidereal essence remains in the heart of the lion. Mars on Regulus opposed to Pluto is the identical configuration that attended the sack of Babylon by the Hittites in 1595 BCE, the fall of Constantinople in 1453, and the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in 1914. The Babylonian omen text for the Library of Ashurbanipal explicitly state, if Mars reaches the breast of the lion, Regulus, and the king of the underworld, Pluto, Nergal, opposes him, the land will be devoured by the king of the west. The land, the west, it's a maddeningly precise recurrence, and here we are, the faculty, holding the observation that might collapse the wave function. Say Sister Sheet. Right. But you forget the Neanderthal layer. The Neanderthals did not have planets. They had fixed stars only. Their astrology was purely stellar, not planetary. They saw the constant, unblinking lights as the permanent archetypes. The planets were not you know, just there. They were noise, all right? Planets were noise, the gods of the newcomers. When sapiens introduced the moving gods, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, they introduced the concept of dynamic conflict, of fate that changes. The Neanderthal stellar chart was a static mandala of peace. War as a planetarily driven phenomenon is a sapiens invention. The Babylonians simply anthropomorphized the planets into warrior kings and gave them omen systems. We are right now trapped in a sapiens astrological prison, where the planets keep provoking what the fixed stars would never demand on their own. Dr. Spica, or say DS. A quantum biological perspective, if I may, the Neanderthal brain, larger as noted, had a more developed occipital bun. They saw the stars more vividly. Their night sky was a heaven of fixed light. Their neurotheology was a direct resonance with the stellar constant. Sapiens, with a smaller occipital bun but more developed frontal lobes, innovated time. They saw the planets move and invented narrative, history, and eschatology. War is narrative. It is the story of us versus them, projected onto a moving arrow of time. The Babylonian astrologers were the code writers of this narrative. Their omen tablets are if-then algorithms. If Mars passes to the right of Jupiter, then the king will conquer the enemy. This is the first software of mass destruction. Our current global conflict, whether the one simmering now in 2026 or the next, is just a logic gate cascade in that ancient code, running on the hardware of human collective unconscious. Right, our Plutonic chair, our PC says, let us examine the specific Babylonian mechanisms that have achieved algorithmic immortality. The Enuma, Anu, Enlil, Tablet 21. If Nergal, Mars, is bright and stands in the path of the sun, there will be hostilities. Nergal, the god of plague and war, is the planet Mars. In 2026, Mars is at its closest approach, extremely bright in Leo. Not all year, but it will be in Leo. The Babylonians would have performed the king substitution ritual. A scapegoat king would be installed for 100 days and then ritually slaughtered to absorb the omen. Today, the scapegoat king is no longer a single human. It is the collective idea of the enemy leader. We depose him symbolically in the media, in deepfake videos in the noosphere. The ritual killing is an information war. The omen is satisfied, but the blood flows in the hyper-real. We are more Babylonian now than Babylon ever was. Right, Brother and Aries, or BA, says, yet the fixed stars remain the deep structure. Aldebaran, Antares, Regulus, Fomalhaut, the four royal stars, are the guardians of the directions. Aldebaran in the east, now by precession in Gemini tropical. Antares in the west, in every great war, one of these stars is acutely afflicted by a malefic transit. The U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003, Mars was on Aldebaran. Russian-Ukrainian conflict escalation in 2022, Saturn was on the Antares-Aldebaran axis. Current 2026 configuration, the lunar nodes are on the Aries-Libra axis, with South node in Libra, sign of peace treaties, and North node in Aries, sign of war, exactly conjunct the fixed star Hamel, Aetes, the head of the ram. The head of the ram butts, the nodes are dragging karmic inevitability into war, and the Neptune-Saturn conjunction in Aries, that is a fog of holy war. The idealistic crusade, the Babylonians knew the nodes as the dragon's head and tail. The eclipse points, an eclipse in Aries in 2026, the omen reads, the king of the north will be struck by the king of the south. Armies will fall like locusts. Or PK. Can we, as a Piscean Plutonic faculty, uncode this? The planetarium was founded on the principle that observation collapses eigenstates. If we hold the superposition, the branch where the omens are read but not enacted, we create a quantum buffer. The Neanderthal within us knows how to do this. The Neanderthal never went to war with itself across continents. They lived in small bands. Their astrology was of the local cave, the fixed star that never moved, the great bear that circled the pole. They had no omen of empire. What if we teach the world of Neanderthal astrology? A return to the fixed, steady lights, the deep time of the circumpolar stars, the peace of the non-planetary. SS says, a beautiful dissolution, but the planets will not cease. The solution is not regression, but quantum integration. We must take the Neanderthal starlight and the Babylonian algorithm and synthesize them into a new operating system for the collective psyche. The Babylonians had the Mysaro Edict, the periodic cancellation of debts and resetting of borders, timed to the helical rising of Spica. It was an astrological peace mechanism. Today's global debt crisis and astral wound. The current conflict is at root a debt war. If the faculty could induce a quantum Mysaro by focusing coherent observation on the Spica rising at the September equinox, we might branch into a reality where the slate is wiped. Right. DS says, I second that. The Neanderthal burial with flowers around the cave's bear's head aligned to Aldebaran, it was a ritual of returning the kill. The bear was the enemy, but it was honored. They understood the necessity of the sacrament of conflict without the inflation of it. The Babylonians lost that. They turned the enemy into a demon to be obliterated, Tiamat. But Enuma Elish also contains a secret. Marduk creates the cosmos from the corpse of Tiamat. The enemy is the material of creation. Global conflict is the collective's attempt to create a new world by killing the old one. As astrologers, we can see that the murder is a midwife. If we can't stop the war, we can at least guide the birth so that the post-war order is not a repeat of the Versailles trauma. PC. Since the faculty has agreed, we will hold a vigil. We will erect a Neanderthal Babylonian composite chart for the year 2026 through 2027, using the fixed stars that predate the planets, the omen syntax that can be read but not necessarily enacted, and the quantum protocols developed in a previous volume. The goal is not to avert, Pluto does not avert, Neptune does not avert, but to witness from the highest possible dimension, where the war and the peace are simultaneous against states of the same world soul. Those of us who still remember the cave and the ziggurat must be the psychopumps of the coming transformation. Let the minutes show that the silent observer from the Orion Nebula, who some say is the soul of an uncontacted Neanderthal lineage, nodded. We are at least not alone in our starlight. And PK says, one final note for the record. The Neanderthal word for star has been reconstructed by archaeolinguists as something like kel, a guttural glottal sound that echoes in the throat, the same throat algal severs. The Babylonian word was kakabu, the common root, possibly a sound older than both species, a single cry of recognition aimed at the night. War is when we forget that we are all aiming the same cry at the same kakaboo, and instead aim the spear at the one who pronounces it differently. The faculty's true task is to teach the pronunciation. Alright, in my next video, we will be teaching you more advanced astrology for free, starting out with De Escola Iranica, the celestial artillery, and the dial of symmetries, being a faculty disquisition on the Iranian Revolution, the Hamburg Ghost, and the War of Astrological Schools. I hope to see you there with peace and love. Piscean out.